Hi, I'm Mike Weisman at the Real Property Team, and today the team and I are in Windham, and we're checking out a house that's so energy efficient and self-sufficient that total costs of heating, cooling, water, sewer, and electric are about $600 per year. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. We're here today, and this could be your next home in Maine. All right, so I'm here with Con No, and the builder of this house and the current owner. And we're going to take a quick look around this house and get a look on the inside and really see what's going on. You know, but before we start, Con, I'd love to hear kind of what was going on, because you built this house, what, 9 years ago?
Correct.
In 2012.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear from you kind of what the inspiration was and this kind of story behind it before we dive into the details.
So back in 2012, we got to go back about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I, college student, I just got back from the Navy.
Right.
We were struggling, and so when we were looking at houses, we wanted a house that we would have to have very little utility that we would have to pay. We also wanted a house that would be energy efficient.
Right.
We were thinking green. I was big into green at the time.
Okay.
And we wanted a house that would give us a lot in the house, performing wise,
Okay.
and function wise.
Mm-hmm.
So we had ideas, you know, like granite countertop,
Right.
farmer sink that we like.
Okay.
And the idea was to have a house that costs very little to live in year after year.
Okay.
And that was the whole inspiration in it.
Right.
And contribute as little as possible to the CO2.
Okay, because back in 2012, there weren't a lot of people thinking along those lines, were
No.
No, and imagine some people might have thought you were out of your mind.
Correct. We had a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
But we gave up a lot of sacrifices on the house, and
Right.
we built it to the way that my wife and I wanted to build it.
Right. Right.
To go from there.
Sure. Well, we didn't sacrifice on the design elements. It's obviously a very well-designed house, very livable, very comfortable.
Yep.
Of course, with the kitchen, and of course, at that point, you didn't have a family, but you were growing into one.
We were thinking that we could have, you know, a couple kids in here and so on. Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Well, perfect. So what I want to do now is we're gonna get a tour of the house. We're gonna kind of dive into the systems, what Con calls the heart of the system, the geothermal system.
Yeah.
So why don't we get on with that? That sound good?
Yeah. You
Okay.
want to
Yep.
go right down to the basement?
Show me which
and
way
we
to
can
go,
talk about
and
it?
Rob
All
will
right.
follow us along.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're in the basement, which we're gonna have a lot of cool things to look at here, like kind of the heart of the whole system.
Correct.
So, Con, give me an idea. What am I seeing here? What's going on?
Okay. So when we were doing our research, one of the big goals was how do we reduce the heat loss in the wintertime and keep the coolness of the house in the summertime. And we came upon ICF foundation.
Okay.
And that's the key to
Right.
keeping that heat in the wintertime and coolness in the
So you said
ICF foundation.
ICF foundation.
And
Yep.
what that is
Yep.
a 3-inch foam on the
Right.
outside of the concrete,
Okay.
followed by 6-inch concrete,
Right.
and then 3-inch foam on the inside.
Okay.
Now, it's ready to go in terms of if anybody wants to just make this into a full finish house,
Right.
they could just put sheetrock right over it,
Wow,
following the stud, and
Okay.
you're done. No need
Okay.
for framing or anything.
Okay. So it's all ready to go.
Yep.
The studs are there. They could put them right in. So
Correct.
you got 3 inches of foam, 6 inches of concrete.
Yep.
3 inches of foam on the inside.
Yes.
That's an amazing R factor right there.
Yeah.
For keeping the
R value on it is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It stays this temperature
Right.
all year round. It
Okay.
doesn't matter how cold it is outside, how hot.
Okay.
It's just the same temperature.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yep.
Okay.
And-
Awesome. Okay. Now what else we got going on?
Now, over here, this is the heart of the system. We
Okay.
have our geothermal.
Right.
At the time, when we were building it, they recommended 3.5 ton,
Okay.
but we opt to go with a 5-ton geothermal
Okay.
because we wanted to make sure that it has enough power
Right.
to power this at negative 25 degrees
Okay.
if we need to.
You want as much capacity
As possible.
Okay.
And one of the benefits of this is that for every dollar that you put in, you get almost 90% efficiency out of it.
Okay.
So the thing that thrives it is it's a heat pump.
Okay.
It takes the temperature from the ground that is about 54 to 56 degrees,
Okay.
and it brings that temperature up to your comfortable level.
Right. So when we say from the ground, we're talking about a well, right?
Yep,
So
we
now
have
we're
a well.
we're bringing up cold water.
Yep.
And anybody that lives in Maine and is on a well knows that the water is very cold as you
Yep.
bring it up.
Correct.
We're bringing up very cold water, 50 some odd degree water.
Yep.
We're heating it slightly.
Correct.
Okay.
And then from there, it just heats up to whatever temperature you need it to.
Okay.
And then it dumps it over to the side.
Okay.
As opposed to traditional where you would heat up the water that's coming in using propane or oil to do it.
Right.
This is just using electric to just bring up that temperature.
So it's effectively, it's a heat exchanger, same way an air conditioner running in like reverse as a heat pump. It
Correct.
takes the cold air from outside and it blows the hot air.
Correct.
That's how you're going to generate heat here.
Yeah, and the byproduct of that is in the summertime, you get very, very inexpensive AC for the whole house.
Starting with cold water already.
Yep. And then all it has to do is reverse, and all you hear most of the time is just a fan blowing and the water just going through, and the house is just so comfortable with central air.
Amazing. Yep. And that water, by the way, is also your well. The drinking water.
That's also drinking water.
Totally dual purpose.
At around 550 feet down, the water is just crystal clear and just good to taste.
Okay. Amazing.
Yep. And then over here is our solar edge system.
Okay.
We have a 27 panel solar panel.
Right.
And that's what provides about 70 to 80% of the energy that this house uses.
Okay. So about 70 to 80% of the energy you use is coming from your own panels.
Correct.
And those are panels you own.
Yep.
You purchased them back in 2012, so that you already bought and paid for.
Yep. All bought.
And so the energy is coming into here.
Yep.
And this is taking it now what, to the grid?
Yep. So we CMP offer us a system called the bank system.
Okay.
And what happens is we would build up energy in the summertime, and whatever we don't use would go straight to CMP.
Okay.
And then CMP would just build up that bank.
Okay.
And in the wintertime, when we don't generate as much, we would just draw back from that bank.
Okay.
And so it's a give and take cycle throughout the whole year.
Okay.
Depending on how cold the season is, how hot the season is,
that's
what fluctuates very little bit in terms of your utility bill.
Okay. Wow.
The most we've ever paid is $340 in the coldest month.
Right.
And that's with all the heating in the house, all the electricity used. And when we have one electric bill, that's for everything.
Okay.
Fridge, lighting, everything in this house is LED.
Right.
To conserve energy.
Right. Okay. So essentially, this is it's just like a bank. Like instead of depositing money, you're depositing energy.
Correct.
Right. The power company, that's the CMP in this case, Central Maine Power, is serving as the bank to hold your energy.
Correct.
And then you're making deposits, and then when you need it, you're getting back the energy from it.
Correct.
Right.
And the other 20% or 25% when we need it, we made sure that the energy comes directly as 100% renewable.
Wow. Okay.
So that there is no tie to fossil fuel at all.
Right. So this house is really completely net zero.
Correct. Since we've been living here in 2012, we have not contributed in the living here in the house to carbon.
Amazing. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, let's go on to the next. We got some backup systems to look at, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So we have two systems here. The main one being that we have very similar system to this. This is a GeoSpring electric water heater.
Okay.
And what it does does the same thing with this unit. It takes the humidity in this basement, the heat, and it converts it like a heat exchanger to heat up the water. And whatever it lacks, it would pull in electricity. Okay. This is your domestic hot water for anything that you need.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
And then should you ever need a backup, if you lost power or anything, you can use the Renine hot water on demand that's there. And that's been there as a backup. It's a secondary source.
That's propane.
That's propane that we have in the tank.
Right. And then the time you've had that, have you run it?
We run it maybe 3 or 4 times a year to make sure that we keep keep it running, stuff like that. My kids tend to take really long baths.
Okay. Okay. So tell me, I noticed there's a device on the ceiling here.
Correct.
Okay.
That is the air exchanger.
Okay.
Because this house is insulated with ICF and blown-in cellulose, it's considered too tight.
Okay.
As opposed to too many air getting in and out. So we had to have an air exchanger that will mix the air from outside with the air on the inside. So every 3 hours, you get a fresh swapping of the whole air inside the house to keep it nice and fresh, and allergy and all of that is free.
Okay.
At the same time, this unit down here is
Right.
the humidifier for the house for
Okay.
the winter time to keep it right around 55%.
Wow.
And it regulates and it does it all on its own.
Mm.
And water comes in from here, it does it. You don't have to do anything.
Right.
Everything is automated and done.
Right. So if someone, let's say, has allergies in a house
Correct.
like this.
This is central air, so you're not in the summertime
Right.
when the pollen is really bad.
Right.
You won't have an issue because it's all sealed in.
It's all sealed in.
It's filter out.
Right. It's
Correct.
it's being filtered.
Correct.
Right. And in the winter, if you've got that problem, sometimes it's very dry in Maine. Very
Correct.
cold, very dry.
The
You got
humidity kicks in and keeps it nice and comfortable for you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Let's take a look upstairs.
Okay.
Okay. We'll get back. We'll look at some of the controls up there and see how it works from that side.
All right.
All right. Awesome. So now we're in the front room.
Correct.
And this is the living room. We're facing south here. Is that right?
Correct.
And I know you've made some design changes along the way to make this house even more efficient and to accommodate these systems. So give me a little insight on that.
So we had to orientate the house
Right?
south,
Right?
so we get the most sunlight through most of the year.
Right.
At the same time, we had to upgrade the insulation from standard fiberglass to blown-in cellulose.
Okay. So standard fiber. So most people are familiar with the pink rolls.
Yeah.
Or today they use like the rock wool, which is kind of
Correct.
popular. But I don't think most people are familiar with cellulose.
Yeah,
So,
and I can explain that.
Yeah.
So what blown-in cellulose is a crushed-up newspaper
Okay.
followed with a mixture of chemical that is fire retardant.
Okay.
It prevents fire and slow the rate of fire should there ever be a fire.
Okay.
And what they would do is they would plaster this with a plastic sheet that goes over, and they would blow in and fill from the bottom up and
Okay.
the top down
Okay.
dense, thick, blown-in cellulose, which is crushed up recycled newspaper,
Okay.
to give you the R value that is greater
Right.
than the traditional fiberglass.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the R value is?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, but more than the same amount of fiberglass, you have a
Correct.
higher R value.
Correct.
Which is amazing. And you have a recycled product, a reused product. Right. So it's again that net energy to the zero waste. Right.
Correct.
Right. And tell me about these windows. These windows had to be adjusted somewhat too, right? From
Correct.
the original plan.
Originally, we had two windows that was spaced far apart with a gap in the middle.
Yep.
And we wanted to have more lighting, and it gives it a bigger feel and space to this, so we put both of them together
Okay.
to give it that space.
Yeah.
At the same time, let's go over to the stairs.
Okay.
We were both growing up in very small houses, and the stairs was always something that my wife and I thought was always a bit too small.
Okay.
So we widened this a bit more
Right.
to give it a bigger feel
Right.
and a wider feel to go up and down.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Amazing. Okay. And the air that's turning over is literally the entire house.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
It's like
It's two zone. We have
Okay.
an upstairs and a
Right.
downstairs zone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So your downstairs zone, I think it's over here. Not mistaken, right? Your control here.
Correct. All the air downstairs would come into this area right here
Yep.
and would go into the system and get recycled there.
Right. Right.
I'm going to bore you with the control for a minute
Okay.
because you don't have to do anything.
Okay.
In the summertime, it's
Yeah.
programmed automatically to stay at 73 degrees
Right.
or whatever temperature you want.
Right.
And it cools if it goes above that.
Right.
And if it's for some reason drop below to 68 degrees,
Right.
the heat will kick in.
Kick in.
And there's nothing you need to do. It's one of
Unbelievable.
those set and forget.
Right.
Okay.
So for people who are used to looking at houses in Maine, I say 80% of the homes here are in oil.
Correct. Where you
Right.
have to make sure that you adjust the temperature when
Right.
you're going away to lower so you don't waste the heat,
Yep.
and then turn up the heat when you
Right.
come back.
Right.
This house stays the same temperature
Right.
all year round to whatever temperature you set it at.
Yeah, that's
At the
amazing.
most efficiency.
And all for about 600 and change per year.
Yep. A couple,
Right.
just two people living here all year round.
Right.
All the electricity used from the fridge to the lighting to the
Right.
dishwasher, washer, dryer, hot water, everything that you use in electricity in this house
Right.
would run you between $600 and $700.
Wow.
That's all that's going to cost you.
Right. That's amazing.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So let's take a look outside now. I know we've got some special features outside. You've got some hookups for electric cars.
Correct.
We'll see the panels on the roof. We'll actually put a drone up for the viewers at home.
Correct.
See the drone as well, and they'll look at the panels, and we'll talk a bit about that.
Okay.
All right, let's check it out.
All right. Let's go.
Okay, so now we're outside, and we've got some special features out here that I think are very appropriate for a house as energy efficient and self-sufficient as this house is.
Correct.
Okay, so tell me what we got.
One of the things that this house has is because it depends on electric for heat,
Right.
we made sure that we have an electrical hookup for
Okay.
an outlet for a generator. Should you run out of power due to heat storm, whatever,
Right.
and you lose power,
Right.
you can hook up a generator,
Okay.
and you'll power your house and
Okay.
still be nice and comfortable.
Right, so you can still run the geothermal system
Correct.
on an external generator.
Correct.
If need be.
Correct.
And it will, because it's so efficient, it'll probably be much more efficient than running anything else.
Correct.
Right.
And we've had to do that a couple times, with the winter storm that we had,
Right.
And it worked beautifully. The house stayed the same temperature, everything as if we didn't skip a beat,
Right.
and it just ran off of a generator.
Amazing.
And at the same time, we will have a electric vehicle charging hookup already. This is a NEMA 1450,
Okay.
50 amp volt,
Right.
50 amp charging.
Right.
That you can hook up to almost any car.
Okay.
If you have an electric car, it's all set and ready to go.
Okay. You've got a Tesla hook up to it right now.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And this little diggy here is my own invention. This is my cable management there.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
as you can see, I don't like it on the floor, on the ground, so I
Right.
just made a little cheap thing there
Yeah,
that
fishing
can just
rod. Yep.
go right out.
That works.
Yep, it
Okay.
works, and that's
Okay. Awesome. Okay. And now up on the roof, we've got 27.
27 panel.
Okay.
That provide almost all of the electricity that's needed in any given day in the summertime.
Okay.
More than enough.
Okay.
So that goes into the bank. It's about a 6.5 kilowatt system
Okay.
per hour at full capacity if you get given a perfect scenario.
Okay.
Most of the time it generates between 4.8 to 5.2
Okay.
of that, and there's really no maintenance of
Right.
the angle that we put it at.
Right.
Any heavy rain washes all the stuff off of it.
Okay. So just for some context here, 'cause people have heard about solar. We do see it in Maine.
Yep.
Not as much as other states, certainly.
Correct.
There's no batteries. We're not
No batteries.
we're not storing power like we spoke about downstairs in the basement. It's a bank system.
Yep.
So the power is essentially your batteries are CMP. They're holding your power.
Correct.
Now you say about almost, you said about 5.5, 6 kilowatts is on average. What was it?
The max capacity can
Seven.
generate is a 6.5
6.5.
kilowatt per hour.
Per hour. Okay.
If the condition was perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we know there's
Clouds.
there's whatever shade,
Right.
and so it generates between 4.8 to 5.2 kilowatt per hour
Right.
at any given time.
Right.
It's more than enough in a given day in the summertime between April to about October.
Right.
It generates more than this house can use.
Right.
And any excess amount goes straight to CMP
Right.
and starts building up that
Right.
piggy bank.
Right. Hence the bank system and building your
Correct.
account. Okay. So now these panels, most people will, kind of thinking like they're about 9 years old now, 8, 9 years old.
Correct.
Okay.
They have a life expectancy of about 25 to 30.
Okay.
So even at 30 years old,
Right.
what happens is it's all of a sudden it's not going to work.
Right.
The efficiency just goes down from 87 to maybe 70 to 60%.
Okay.
But it's still going to continue to produce
Right.
energy
Right.
for its entire life.
Right. So whoever picks up this house now, even in year 9, going into the 10th year,
Correct.
still has the majority of the power left.
Correct.
Will have the majority of that savings for the next, arguably, almost 20 years.
Correct. At least 20 years, they're
Right.
just going to be saving energy, saving money in
Right.
their pocket every
Right.
single year.
Right.
Because you only need about $600 or $700 to live here
Right.
a year
Right.
in terms of utility.
Right. Normally, a house like this, we'd expect $4,000 or $5,000 a year.
Correct. When I did the research, an
Right.
average house in Maine
Right.
was right around $3,500 to $4,000 just for oil alone, just to heat the
Just-
house.
Right.
And then you have to factor in the utility for electric.
Right.
In the summertime, you have to put in AC.
Right.
Window AC. That
Right.
brings the price up, and
Right.
then you got to talk about propane and all of that.
Right.
So that can easily be $4,000, $5,000 in a given year.
Right.
Where in this house, it's $600 or $700,
Right.
and the rest of it you could do with what you please.
It's amazing. Well, Connie, you've done an amazing job with this house. And
Thank you.
so the next person that come in is going to be as honored and as privileged to enjoy it as you and and Ta have, and your kids and your family. And it's going to be a great home for someone to take the reins over.
We hope so.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Bye bye.